Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Survivor Stockwatch podcast. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and with me today is Chantele. How you doing, Chantele?
I'm amazing. This is, I think, the first time we'll be talking about Survivor together. So this is going to be fun. I thought it was a super fun episode to be talking about at all. So I'm happy to be here and can't wait to get into the of it all.
Yes, there's quite a lot to get into today. I mean, a fantastic episode last night. I think it was the best one of the season in my opinion. It felt to me like they had been building the previous episodes in order to have this one. This one felt like it had been built up to give us this one. Again, I feel like the previous episodes, the last two at least, were really meant for us to be like disappointed in the outcome. Like they really built it up just to be disappointed like twice in a row, and then they were like, "Get ready for disappoint." Oh, or not? I don't know.
Well, and I started off too with like we got in a reward challenge, and I didn't realize that I missed the reward challenge. I missed kind of like the traditional format of the show where it's like you get the reward challenge, you get people working together. The stakes aren't that high, but you can see maybe if people's competitive energy comes out or how these dynamics of these little tribes are working. And so I think we got just like a really well-rounded episode that, yes, there's a little bit of advantages that came into play, but it wasn't like the beware advantages and go on a boat and sneak out of camp. Like it wasn't all this extra stuff. It kind of just got back to the bare bones of what we love about Survivor, and that's real people making decisions to further themselves in the game. Who would have thunk?
Yes, I tweeted out that's like it's like every episode, the all of Survivor production is presented with their own prisoner's dilemma, and if any one of them chooses to take the advantage, then the episode's just going to all be about the advantages. So they all have to choose like the well balanced episode choice. But Probst is over there every time he sees some shiny advantage. He's like, no, we got to do this. Um.
You don't need it. We don't need it. We
Mm.
don't need it.
We landed a good one though, as we did away with Advantage Island for a moment, and we did have this reward. And the thing is too that I'm really not much of a fan of the reward challenges in general. I feel like I would rather just be at camp. Um,
Mhm.
this one turned out okay, and I was okay with it. I also liked what they did with the immunity challenge, but I'm sure we'll get into all of that. We are here, of course, to go through the episode and kind of try to dig deep like Heather did. We never give up trying to analyze the episode and try to figure out exactly what was happening in the show, in the game. And then we're going to rate each player out of 10 based on how well we think they're doing in the game. And that's based on their position strategically, not necessarily what the edit is trying to say, sort of in the meta of all of that. So let's get into it. Let's talk about
Yes.
this episode. We are introduced right away to the Ua tribe, the Green tribe, as they're coming back from tribal council, and Genie is not pleased. She was blindsided by the Brad vote out.
Absolutely. Like we knew that this was coming. We could tell that she wasn't, filled in on that's the way that the vote was going to be going. So she definitely was blindsided as well. Her number one ally is taken out of the game. I don't know if she handled this well. I don't think anybody actually handled it well. I feel like with Shan coming back at Genie and being like, you weren't even Brad's number one. He didn't tell you about an advantage. And she was saying this in front of everybody. I was like, Shan, I love you, but maybe just have that conversation with you and Genie, because then that goes and gets JD a little bit mad about the fact that Shan is now keeping information away from him about Brad. And so it was very entertaining, absolutely, but I thought it was missteps on all three of those people's games.
Yeah, it was strange to me because when I saw it, I was immediately just like, why is she giving away this information? Because I think I can kind of understand it. I think that that Shan going to Genie privately, after the feelings have died down a little bit, and said to her, "Hey, I know you felt that way, but here's the thing. Brad did come to me about this, and he told me that he didn't tell you, and just it didn't seem very like I didn't love how public it was when she said, and also kind of just like the way she said it about like, hey,
Boo.
yeah, boo, hey, boo, I was his number one. He told me about this and not you. It was like, oh, uh-oh.
It just like I love to watch it, but I just thought it was really bad. I'm like, Shan, like you can't be kind of gloating about the fact that like you knew more than what was going on in this game, because I felt it could easily make everybody be kind of turned off and just being like, well, who does she think she is that she could be acting this way once like I lost my closest ally? Like if I were Genie, I'd be trying to collect JD, who seems a little bit salty about like not being fully filled in. And yes, as much as Ricard and Shan are a duo, people are in survival mode. Maybe she could gather him to be voting out Shan. So I just thought that it wasn't well played, but fun to watch.
Yeah, and so there are a couple things that we learned from JD's exit interviews this week about some of the previous tribals, at least from JD's perspective. First of all, in the tribal that we saw just the week before, JD says in his exit interview about that tribal that he had apparently tried to flip Shan and Ricard against, or sorry, Genie and Ricard against Shan. Sorry, he tried to flip Brad and Genie against Shan and Ricard. I he tried to flip on Shan and Ricard. And so he had actually told Brad and Genie about his extra vote and that he could be with the two of them. Even if Brad can't vote, he can use his extra vote to make a 3v2. But apparently they were not on board. They did not come along with him for that plan. We did not hear any of this from Brad in his exit interviews. What we heard from Brad is that in the first tribal, he was trying to flip the vote on Ricard himself, and JD wasn't on board because JD got up in the middle of tribal and didn't vote with them. We heard from JD about that tribal that he feels like in that first tribal council, when Shan was talking about, hey, we got to vote Brad, and it was a live tribal, that he had gotten up and he was the reason the vote didn't fall on Brad, which does line up with what we saw. That he was saying, I don't think Brad should go. Shan was saying, I do think Brad should go. Ultimately, we see JD saying, like, I'll do whatever you want. But JD says that there was no way he was actually going to vote against Brad. And he feels like he's the reason that Brad didn't end up leaving in that tribal. He did not, as far as I'm aware, comment on the idea that Brad was trying to flip the vote onto Ricard in the middle of that tribal, or why he didn't go along with that. But so if we try to piece all of this together, right, from Brad's perspective, from JD's perspective, Shan, I think, and from Sarah's perspective as well, she said that she was pushing hard to flip the vote on Brad. Seemingly it worked. Shan and Ricard were on board to flip the vote on Brad. And Brad, in the meantime, while they were doing that, was trying to get the vote flipped on Ricard. And he was telling JD and Genie, hey, let's flip the vote on Ricard. But in the middle of Brad telling JD that, JD got up because he was getting whispered in his ear, hey, we got to vote out Brad. And so he got up to defend Brad, tried to protect Brad. But in Brad's mind, he got up in the middle of Brad trying to flip the vote on Ricard. And from that moment, Brad never trusted JD, wouldn't even really give him the time of day, according to JD. And despite the fact that JD then in the future wanted to continue to work with Brad and Genie against Shan and Ricard, Brad was having none of it. Again, according to JD. So this is a story. This is like sort of a series of events that could line up. But I would love to hear more from like Brad and Genie, and like because there's a couple of inconsistencies between what Brad says and what JD says. And then especially what we get in this episode, which we'll talk about later, according to what JD says. But according to JD, the move to give Shan his extra vote in the previous episode, at the very least, was a sort of like secondary plan. He had initially tried to use it with Brad and Genie against Shan and Ricard, but they weren't on board. So he said, "All right, backup plan. I need to get in with Shan and Ricard." And so then that's when he gave Shan his extra vote.
Well, and okay, so he has been trying to play, but maybe some of this has gotten back to Shannon Ricard, and maybe this is why they didn't feel like they can necessarily trust him anymore. Because, like, from what we're seeing on the show, I'd be like, JD, you're fun to watch, but I could never play this game with you because you are all over this place. You are making these big, obvious mistakes. You know, one, making it visible that you have this advantage that you didn't share with anybody, and then if you are going to Brad and Genie and laying out all this information that you want to flip on Shan and Ricard, well, if Brad thinks that Shan is his number one, I would have to also think that he relayed that information that JD was interested in maybe flipping against them. So I think that he might have been doing too much with people that didn't trust him. And I think that might have been something that we didn't see more of. But I think it could have been one of the reasons why he was voted out in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I have to imagine that if JD did really pitch this idea of flipping on Shan in the previous week, that or in the previous tribal, that information must have gotten back to Shan either before that tribal or after, and must have played into why she ultimately decides to send JD out, even beyond just the extra vote that she has to steal eventually. But we'll talk more about that as we move forward into the end part of the episode. But just food for thought for now, trying to piece together what was happening prior to this. In the episode, the actual episode, we get again. Genie is upset. Ricard is going to continue to bring up the fact that Genie has written his name down. We never The weird thing about this is that in the episodes, we never get an explanation for this. Now, Brad's explanation for us was that, again, they were thinking of flipping the vote onto Ricard. And so Genie's vote for Ricard was just sort of a product of that. But in the episodes, they've never explained why she voted for Brad voted for Ricard. But they keep showing us Ricard like being upset about it, like a couple of times prior to this episode, and then multiple times even within this episode. Ricard keeps bringing up the fact that Genie has voted for him, and I cannot help but think that this is going to be an issue for one of them at the very least in the future.
Well, okay. I do agree with that, but then also maybe it was also for this episode for us to be a little bit surprised. So
Mhm.
maybe it was just to kind of like double down on like, oh, if they lose, Genie's next on the list. She wrote down Ricard's name. It makes perfect sense for her to be the one voted out now. So it could be to phone it in for this particular episode, but I definitely could see it be foreshadowing for something in the future as well.
Mm-hmm. So we get what we talked about with Shan talking about Brad's stuff. JD is unhappy that Shan was mad at him for hiding things when she's been hiding things as well. And he asks for his extra vote back. And he says,
Fool me once, shame on me, and that's it. That's the end of it. You're not gonna fool me twice.
Oh,
death knell at the end of that.
that's just like his money, tribal, like
Yeah.
poor
That's
guy.
some real foreshadowing right there. They when they found that clip, they were like, "All right, we are structuring a 4-episode act for this one line." Um, oh boy.
Oh, JD. I mean, I really like the kid. He did come off as a kid to me,
Mhm.
especially in this particular episode. And I appreciate his tenacity and want to play the game, and he's super fan and has all these idols and people that he's watched play that helped him grow up. I love all of his backstory about being a Survivor fan. But I do think that he was out of his league, especially this episode, because I didn't feel like what Shan was doing was that like that Oscar worthy. Like I think that she was pretty obvious about what was going on. And the fact that he didn't see it and he was pretty much blindsided from what we could see on the show, to me shows that he was maybe a little bit too young to play the game that's actually playing.
Mm. Well, we then go straight to the reward challenge, and again, weirdly, like the structure for this season has been so strange because in the first episode, they first of all have the weird like sweat versus whatever, right? Where they're like trying to earn their flint by carrying
Oh.
buckets across the beach. And then they go to Advantage Island and they have the not really a prisoner's dilemma for an extra vote. Then in episode 2, they go to Advantage Island again to do the same not really a prisoner's dilemma for another extra vote. And then in episode 3, so at that point, you're like, oh, this is going to be a regular thing. But then in episode 3, they go to a different Advantage Island to do an actual prisoner's dilemma for a steal a vote. And you're like, okay, that's different. And then in episode 4, it's a reward challenge.
Right? I was just like, I liked it just because
Yeah.
I don't really care for, I don't think that they showed that they need a tarp. So like, and this extra vote hasn't really been able to play out really because, 2 people, I think, or at least Brad didn't have a vote. So if you don't have a vote, you can't even use the extra vote and you can't use the shot in the dark. So it's like, what? Like you have all these advantages that cancel out the opportunity to use other advantages. So I don't know why we're getting more advantages in if you can't actually use them. So I was very pleasantly surprised to see this reward challenge. I was like, oh, they're gonna win a fish. I didn't even realize that they had like there was 2 prizes. So I rewound and I was like, oh wait, we also have like a native Fijian that's gonna teach them how to fish and etc., which is very typical old school Survivor. So I was happy to see this reward challenge come into play because all these actual advantages haven't been working out, in my opinion.
I was disappointed, given what we know about the reward challenge later, that Jeff didn't present the rewards as if you come in second place, you get this fish, and if you come in first place, Nathan comes. Like, this amazing man will come and save you. Nathan should have been there. Nathan probably would have had like the best advice for Heather in the challenge. It would have been great.
Yeah, I mean that would have been super fun too. But you don't want to take away Jeff's moment at the end of that, at that challenge where he got to, say to Heather, this is what we do this for. It's like just these vulnerable moments. And I was like, well, we love these vulnerable moments, Jeff, but like you're taking them all away because you want to give us Advantage Island.
It's strange because I mean like Heather, so they go through the challenge obviously. First of all, when they come in, Brad is gone, and I did notice like the smallest of looks from Xander, just like biting his lip, like that's unfortunate.
No vote.
I have no vote and no idol. And they go through the challenge. I noticed in particular, just like Liana gets a segment where, Liana just crushed that. Tiffany comes through for Yasa, but Heather struggles. She can't get through. First of all, this looked so much fun. To throw the ball in the thing and then run through the ropes. It looked like it was a blast, but it is the kind of challenge, unfortunately for Heather, where like every subsequent failure makes it more difficult to accomplish. So like once you've messed up a couple of times, it's gonna get to be nearly impossible because you don't have the stamina to get through fast enough. And that's what happens here with Heather. She's very upset afterward. Danny and Deshaun come and comfort her. Danny in particular is just like so nice and so comforting. Deshaun comes in and he's nice and comforting. Sydney's like, it wasn't an immunity challenge or anything. Like, don't worry about it.
But exactly though, and like I do like that we got to see this tribe not win something. So because it seems like as we'll talk about a little bit more, that they're getting a little bit restless. So the fact that they didn't win, I think, was good for, you know, the ego of their tribe to realize that like they don't just have it in the bag and they're going to win all these challenges. And then it does have this vulnerable moment where everybody's like cheering her on and telling her that it doesn't matter, you didn't give up, you kept going, but you made us proud still. And so we got that character building moment with Heather and with her whole tribe. And I was surprised because Danny is somebody that I was expecting to maybe always want to win. You know, coming from a competitive background, the fact that he was so generous with her, I was like, I thought that was a great moment for him as well, because I was just expecting him to always want to win. And the fact that nobody seemed to really care that much, like, I thought it was good.
Yeah, and it felt like such a nice and genuine moment with Danny and Deshawn. And then it got a little weird because first of all, like then it's like I cannot speak for Heather myself, but if I was in Heather's position, I would love Danny and Deshawn coming and comforting me like on my tribe. I would hate then walking back to Jeff and having the other two tribes start clapping. You did so good. It was so good of you. I would be like mortified. I'd be like, please just ignore the fact that I exist. And then it only gets worse from there because Jeff is like, this is amazing. This is what we love on Survivor. And she's like, okay, thank you.
But it's the Suri moment that he's trying to recreate, right? Like he's been like, I think he was like hoping that Suri moment was going to happen with Tiffany on that log or on like the balance beam. Like he wants that Suri moment where he gets to the other side of the log and then she can have that whole story about like, you know, being a woman on her couch, getting off her couch and coming to play Survivor. So he wants to recreate that. And Heather just wants to hide. And I think that even that juxtaposed against each other is like hilarious television.
Oh man, it was it's like like you see it in Jeff's eyes that he's just like, yes, this is it's like he's an energy vampire and he's just like, yes, give me your emotions. He's so happy that she's sad. It's very very silly. Post reward challenge. We go to the yellow tribe, and this is a very fun segment. Here's what I'm gonna say about the editing of the season, because I know that a lot of people are disappointed with so much focus being on the advantages, and I have been a bit in the previous two episodes as well. However, I still really like the overall direction of the editing. I think that if there are failings, and I do think there were, a couple of failings in the previous two episodes, I don't think it's on the editors personally. I think it's on what they have to show. I mean, if you have all of these advantages and all of these things going in and you have to show them, then there's only so much that you can really do. And I will say, even the previous episode that is the most sort of derided of the season so far, I really enjoyed it because of all of the like goofy character moments we got from Brad and all the sound bites that I got. Like, it was still very fun for me. And I really like what they're doing with the season. I like the slow-mo. I think it's fun. I like the random slow-mo shots. I like that they are playing with the Shan villain music. And I like that they allow for like Evie to do this like previously on Survivor.
Love that.
Yeah, like Yasa was down in the dumps, but then they're coming back.
Absolutely. And another one that they've been doing as well that you like when they do it on Big Brother, but when they have the flashback, so they tell the story and then they flash back to the scenes. They did that. I don't think they did it this episode, but they definitely did it in the past two episodes, if I'm not mistaken. And I like that too. I like when people like get backed up by fact, whether they're lying or they're not lying. You get to see what the actual scene was. So yes, I do agree with you that the way that they're telling the stories in this kind of new stylized format is very enjoyable. And I just wish that they didn't have to focus so much on the advantage stuff, because this I felt was pretty close to a perfect of an episode. Like, I think it had everything that you needed in a Survivor episode. And I love the previously on. I was like, I wonder if like when the editors saw her say that and they're just like, oh my God, like that's gonna be so perfect to like validate that by doing it. And I was happy that they took the bait. If she was the cause of it, that's awesome. Or if they were the one that decided to put that all together, that would be awesome too. But I'm happy that they made that happen.
Yes, very cool. And this was an interesting segment for me from the Yellow Tribe because the previous two episodes have felt like they have been sort of like trying to imply that Yasa made a mistake when they voted out Voce. That the whole episode seemed to be built up. I'm getting a little bit of an echo, Chantele, if we can try to. But it felt like the second episode, it was really built up to feel like they made a mistake, and then in the following episode, they open with Liana really regretting the decision that she should have made the move. They should have taken out Xander. But now here in episode 4, we get this whole kind of redemption segment, and it's about like, hey, you thought we made a mistake, but look at us now. We're thriving, and we've even got baby turtles.
Exactly. I mean, I love the fact that their tribe is getting the redemption arc here, because I was skeptical as to whether or not that was the right decision. We saw that Liana was really upset with her decision, that she didn't get what she wanted to happen, that tribal. And so it's nice to see that so far nobody, like the only person that has a different outcome is Tiffany. I think that Tiffany's looking like a hero now, like, and she's actually solidifying herself in the tribe to make it seem like, oh, you know what, it's great that we kept her, because maybe we wouldn't have won if she wasn't here, because she's been a very valuable player, or member of the tribe for the last couple of challenges. So I think it's great.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of it, because it feels like I don't know where they're going with it. I don't know, like, are we supposed to? Because Tiffany tells us like, hey, we're succeeding because of me. I'm joking. But it's like it's funny, and it's like Tiffany is an interesting character. In the previous episode, we saw that she clashed with Sydney, and we can definitely see that Sydney is being built up to be a villain. We do get some Evie content. Xander has been just completely absent, in terms of like confessional and sort of like really any kind of strategic content in the previous two episodes. But it just edit wise, I'm not sure where they're going with Yasa, but I'm very intrigued.
Yes, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued with, like, do they have a backup plan if Luvu doesn't find that third idol? Like, what do they plan on having to happen? Because I just don't think it's compelling television for Xander to go to merge without a vote. Like, that sucks. Um, and I do think, though, that they might be building this up for Tiffany to maybe have a long stretch. I think a lot of us were saying, like, if Tiffany survives, we can see her going all the way to final 3 and being kind of dragged to the end. And so maybe that's what they're starting to build up for us. I'm curious.
I think like my best guess right now would be that like because I think the merge is approaching, right? We have eliminated 5 players now, which means we're down to 13. It doesn't seem like we are getting a preview for a merge in the next episode, which means we'll get down to 12, which seems like a pretty good spot to merge. I can't imagine they would go beyond 12 without a merge, considering that there are 6-person tribes, and you can only eliminate 6 people on a tribe. So if one tribe lost every time, you'd just be screwed. So I would imagine that the merge is coming here at 12. And I don't anticipate that they would swap onto 2 tribes of 6. It's kind of a weird thing to do. It makes a lot more sense that they merge at 12, which means that we're gonna get, I think, brand new storylines for everyone. We've been stuck in these tribal storylines so far. So my best guess right now is that Tiffany flips on Yasa. And that's why we're getting a big build up on Tiffany as a character, maybe a little bit of a wild card, but also fun. And also it really they're building them up as like one big happy family right now, but it also kind of pays off the idea that that they made a mistake when they voted out Voce over Tiffany. That would be my best guess, but who knows?
I mean, I can see that in a heartbeat. It seems from what I learned about Tiffany's personality is that she's going to do whatever it takes to save her own butt. And so if right now that means like winning and getting them to, doing the girls strong on that tribe, that's working for her right now. But if something's working for her a little bit better, I don't see her having any loyalty to Yasa.
Okay, so we get over to Ua again, and this is what I think really helped. I mean, first of all, I loved this episode because of how balanced it seemed. We start with Ua, then we go to the reward challenge, and then we got every tribe here having their own segment. And the interesting thing is that the Ua tribe was not the one that was the main focus strategically. If anything, they had the least amount of strategic content prior to the immunity challenge because most of their content in the post reward segment is about Nathan and how amazing he is. Genie says he's the best stripper you've ever seen.
Well, and also Ricard's like, I don't think we need Genie anymore. And so I think it was also to lay it on a little bit thick about, the outcome of this particular episode. But yeah, I mean, I love Nathan and seeing what he could do on that pole. Like, he could work that pole.
Yeah, and this is kind of like the first time we've and I feel like they're really the whole purpose of season 41, right? Like the marketing was it's the monster. It's gonna be the hardest season ever. And I feel like I keep being told from the contestants that this is like the hardest thing ever. They're like, this is the hardest season of Survivor. I don't care what other people went through. I am not seeing it. I am being told and not shown, and that is not usually the best thing to do here in television. I don't think that they are doing enough showing in terms of like why is it the hard? Like, let me see them struggling here. But I do like that this is kind of like a little bit of some camp life going on.
Absolutely. And like, just to kind of double down on what you're saying there, like when they had to go to the island to choose between the steal a vote and the tarp, well, I need to know that the tarp matters. Like, I need to know that, like, they've been in the rain, they've been chattering. Remember, we've seen scenes of like people's fingers blistering and they're shivering in the cold. Like, I need to see that for them to be like, I need this tarp, like, and having to like convince the other people to make this happen because they need to do something for their tribe. So it seems like it's been all sunny days. Yeah, they might be hungry and they don't have any flint. And we learned that Erica hasn't been to tribal yet, so she doesn't even have a torch. Like, we haven't really learned that there's suffering and like it's that bad. It really doesn't seem any worse than the first few days of any season of Survivor. It doesn't seem like the monster is coming. It doesn't seem hard. Well, harder.
Yeah, and I mean the fact that like they barely bat an eye at the tarp did not help sell it. They were all just like, yeah, nobody's getting the tarp. We know it's fine.
And they're all willing to like, yeah, do you know what? I'm gonna be exactly.
So we get over to the blue tribe, and look who has arrived. It's Erica. She's on the show.
She's your number one pick, right? How did you feel about her coming out episode?
I think she's great. I would love to see more from Erica. This was a very bad way to be introduced on the show for the first time in 4 episodes. You're 4 episodes in, and her introduction was like, "Oh, this idiot!" Like, oh no.
Poor thing. And like how I've been selling Erica, I've been like, oh my God, Erica, she's in a great position. She sits out a little bit, but like it seems like she's wins with puzzles. So she's really great with puzzles. And so like I've been selling Erica. I have her on one of my drafts and I'm like, she's great. She's great. And then this episode came. I'm like, Erica, I know you're restless. I know you want to play, and I know it's hard for us to understand because they haven't gone to tribal council. They haven't had to test their loyalties and alliances. They haven't had to play the game yet. So I get it. She's antsy. But she's also not great at reading the situation, and she's giving all of her information to Deshaun before they have to even make any sort of decisions. And I thought that she played it all bad, and I was shocked.
Yeah. She tells Deshaun that first of all, like right, we start this. She tells Deshaun that she feels like he's the only one that she sees that is always thinking like her. So clearly there's some kind of bond or something that she sees in him, somebody that she can work with. I just think this is more positive game content for Deshaun. I don't know if the edit was great for him this episode, but game wise, I love the fact that that Erica felt comfortable enough to come to him about this. And unlike the situation where Nasir felt comfortable enough with Sydney to go to her with the Danny information, it does not appear that Erica immediately discovered that her information had been leaked. She seems to still be completely in the dark from what we see, which is, of course, very little. But she says she's actually a lion dressed as a lamb. She's ready to take her teeth out. And I like that, but why? Um, why are you ready to take your teeth out? Especially if you don't appear to be in the greatest position on this tribe. Maybe she doesn't know that. Maybe she feels she's in the core. Maybe that, Deshaun and Danny have done a very good job of convincing her that she's in with them or she's in with Shan at least. I don't know what she thinks her position is, but it's clearly not a position where she's able to pitch something like this to Deshaun as she tries to pitch that Sydney should go.
Well, that's exactly it. It's like if she's recognizing in Deshaun that like they're both thinking and they're both really ready to play this game or whatever, and she feels that she has like a conspiring partner with Deshaun, why hasn't she recognized who Deshaun has been talking to? She must notice that he walks off and has conversations with Sydney. He must notice that he talks to other people in the tribe equally or maybe more than he talks to her. So the fact that she was kind of treating him as if they had a final two and they were each other's like solidified number ones and without having that confirmation from Deshaun. And so I thought it was all over bad gameplay, especially when she starts it off with an observation of his gameplay. Like, well, you're observing him. Like, haven't you noticed other stuff that he's doing to be like, maybe I shouldn't give you all that information? I don't understand also why she didn't allow him to come to her with this type of information. Like, you want to be the one that's gathering information, not the one that is giving out information. And so there must be something about Deshaun that makes people just want to spill everything to him, because we see this now with Erica. We saw it with Evie, and he's just like just stays there and gets all this information and uses it as he pleases. So
yeah. It's weird, and I would love to hear more. I'm sure there's plenty more sort of context for why she felt comfortable going to Deshaun with this, but whatever that context is, it clearly is meant to be seen as a mistake, and it certainly seems like it. As it also, it's funny that the scene that they used to sort of like say that whatever prompted this is Sydney's trying to like start fire with Flint, and she's I'm over it. And then I have no idea what's happening here, but as soon as she says I'm over it, she gets up, she walks away. Nasir walks over, he's like, "Thank you, Flint."
but okay, if I were to see someone just throw a little mini tantrum over the Flint, I'd probably laugh. Like, I mean, I would like to see if there's more things.
I'm just like, is Nasir saying thank you, Flint, for getting rid of Sydney? Is he saying thank you, Flint, for existing? Is he saying thank you, Flint, because now he's thanking the Flint before he's about to use it to start the fight? I don't know why he's saying thank you, Flint, but I feel like no matter what it is, every single explanation I come up with, I love.
Well, I think he's saying thank you, Flint, because it reminds them that he is indispensable, right? Because like before, he was kind of on the outs, and then like he made fire for them again, and like they're like, oh my god, we can't vote you out now. And then like they got a little more comfortable and be like, well, maybe we don't need him anymore. And then she's trying to, make fire, and it's not actually as easy as Nasir makes it. And so she storms off, creates her little drama now with Erica, and he's like, I could just come back in here and make this fire, and so you'll need me again. So thank you, Flint.
Yeah. Well, Deshaun tells us that he's always been wary of Erica. He feels like her survivor IQ is very high, and he trusts Sydney much more than her. So when she pitches to him that Sydney needs to go, he says that that's no good. He doesn't want to give Erica the opportunity to lie low, come at him, take him out, and win the game, something like that. So he tells Sydney about it. Now this is interesting because he gives Sydney the chance to guess, like, who's saying your name. Her first thought is, like, Heather saying my name again. Is Nasir saying? Is Danny saying my name? It's like Erica is the last person that she guesses, which doesn't necessarily indicate anything, but could be an indication that, like, further indication of like, why is Erica coming for Sydney if Sydney has seemingly no interest in going after Erica? I mean, from what we've seen in the secret scenes, she's concerned about Heather. She wants to go after Heather because Heather had a dream about her. She's concerned about Nasir because Nasir's coming to her pitching that Danny should go. Why does Erica feel the need to take Sydney out? It could be that she sees the power structure of the game, and maybe Erica's tight with Nasir and Heather, and she feels like maybe I can pull one person, maybe Deshaun's that person, and I can get Sydney to be the one on the outs because she's a bit of a lightning rod. And maybe I can use the fact that she's so upset right now and that she just rubbed the tribe the wrong way to get one person over to my side, and I can protect Nasir and Heather by doing this. But whatever the reason is, it definitely fails. Sydney, she says,
I'm savvy as hell. I'm good looking. I'm a physical threat.
and
Wow. Like, what is it about me? I think they just hate me. They love to hate me. They hate me because they ain't me.
Episode title right there.
some great lines from Sydney. I was talking about them starting to build up a villain edit there for Sydney, and I mean, here it is. They hate me because they ate me. And then we get the rattlesnakes kind of sound effect afterwards.
I mean, listen, I can see her potentially being a little bit polarizing, maybe with people that like an Erica that might not appreciate her kind of bold and brassness. Sydney is coming across to me as one of the a type of woman that says that they don't usually get along with women. She hangs out with men a little bit more. Like, I feel like that's the vibe that I'm getting from Sydney right now, especially with those type of comments. And I can see that being true, where maybe she gets along with Danny and Deshaun. She doesn't feel like she has to compete. She can be her full self with them. And maybe she is rubbing Erica the wrong way in that sense because she's not someone that gets along that well with other women. So maybe that's what's happening. But no matter what, Erica was not on Sydney's radar at all. And so for you to, and same with Heather, she's the same thing. Heather was probably not on Sydney's radar at all. And all of a sudden I have a dream that you came after me. Now I'm coming after you. And you're just like, why would you tell her that? Because now you're on her radar. So both these two women put themselves on Sydney's radar to be playing, like, Sydney would never have been coming for them first at all. And so I thought it was this plays on both of the other women of that tribe.
Yeah. Well, Deshaun pitches to Danny that they should throw the challenge to take Erica out. He says, would it really be that bad if we lost? And initially Danny's like, yeah. But Deshaun says, think about it this way. Think about it long term. We go into a merge with 6 players, we're going to be the easy vote. Everybody's going to gang up against us. And Danny says it makes sense, but he's not sure if he can do it. So this is part of why I feel like, first of all, I like this move from Deshaun. I think he's thinking correctly. I think that especially if he's noting that there are people on this tribe who understand that they're at the bottom and may flip. If they go into a merge, even if it's a 12-person merge with 6 people, and it's 6 on 6, yes, Deshaun has an extra vote, but Danny does not. And other tribes could have, I mean, the other 6 players could have upwards of what, like 2 to 4 extra votes, and potentially a steal a vote, or like, because,
Shot in the dark.
Tiffany might have a steal a vote. They've got the shots in the dark. There's so many, like they could definitely be outnumbered in a 6v6 scenario, especially if they have people like Heather and Erica, and even Nasir. I don't know how they feel about him and where he stands, but Nasir has talked about taking Danny out. Erica's talked about taking Sydney out. Heather's talked about taking Sydney out. You do not want to be in a 6v6 situation like that, where the obvious move is for the other 2 tribes to gather together and look for somebody who will flip and use their advantages against you, and all of a sudden you're in the minority. I like the idea of them throwing this challenge, taking out somebody that they feel like is probably not going to stick with them at the merge, and lowering their numerical threat level coming into a merge. If they go into a merge with 5 people, then or even maybe 4 people, then they can now pull over, especially somebody like Deshaun, who made a connection to Evie when he was on Advantage Island. Maybe now they can pull in Yasa and say, hey, look, we have a tribe of 5, but we just blindsided Erica. We pissed off Heather, and Nasir's never been with us. It's really us 3. Why don't us 3 and you, and maybe we can pull one person for now, and we can work together. We can, make this work. I like this idea from Deshaun. I think strategically it makes a lot of sense. But Survivor hates challenge throwers. And so for me, when I see Danny, who clearly does agree with the plan, he says it makes sense, he goes along with it, but Danny is the one that gets that little bit of protection in the edit, where he's like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm an athlete. I don't know if I have it in me to throw this challenge, but he does. But we get the sense from him that he doesn't want to, because it goes against, who he is. That to me is protection in the edit that Deshaun is not getting. And so edit wise, I feel like this was a better episode for Danny, but strategically, I'm continuing to be very impressed with Deshaun.
Okay, well, I have a question though. So, how would they have gotten that vote to go down if they were to go to tribal and Erica was their mark? Because they would have to pull in maybe Heather and maybe Nasir. And what if they don't want to go that route? What if they decide, like, no, we're being strong-armed here to take out Erica? We don't want Erica to go. We want Sydney to go, and it becomes a 3-3 split. So, how would they have worked with the numbers with them only having 3 people? To vote out Erica for sure.
So the fact that they're willing to throw this challenge to me indicates that they definitely feel like they have somebody else, at least, right? At least one other person. I would assume Nasir is the person they feel like they've got. But I mean, I know that we've seen that Nasir's talked about taking a shot at Danny. Maybe they feel like they can split the other votes for, like, whatever it is. I can't imagine that 3 people who all seem like they understand numbers and the game would risk trying to throw a challenge if they knew they only had 3 locked in votes. I have to imagine that they felt very confident that they at least had 4, if not more, right? But we do know that Deshaun knows how the immunity idols work. He also is in possession of the only extra vote on the tribe. Danny is the only other person that could have an extra vote, and Sydney's the only other person that could have the steal a vote. So they should feel very confident in their ability to control the advantages. They know that there's no idol, no extra votes going around the other direction. Worst comes to worst, Deshaun can use his extra vote, but I wouldn't even imagine that he'd put himself in a position to have to use his extra vote by throwing a challenge when he could save it for a merge that's coming up soon. So,
you know what? I forgot about the extra vote. I think that that's the guarantee that they have no matter what, is that fourth vote right there.
Mm-hmm. So who knows which one? Maybe they feel like they've got Heather. Maybe they feel like they've got, Nasir, or maybe they just feel so confident that Erica trusts Deshaun enough that, that they can split Erica's vote away from Nasir's and Heather's, or whatever it is. But I have confidence that they must have
Thought it through.
planned for whatever it was. So we get to the immunity challenge, and I loved this. This is one of my favorite immunity challenges I've ever seen on Survivor. And it's because they take a note from Big Brother in a way, right? Where Big Brother is, the challenges are narrated by the players themselves, but the difference is that on Big Brother it sucks because the players are just reading lines from the producers essentially, and they're like, so I walked out into the backyard, and even though you just heard this explained, let me explain it again. And then they're like, so I looked at the puzzle and I saw that the eye looked like this other eye, and so I connected those two and it was right. Like, terrible, right? So what Survivor does right here is that they include these confessionals because it gives us extra context to what we're seeing that we wouldn't otherwise be aware of in a very entertaining way. So I loved this. Deshaun and Danny just like talking about like we're just trying to drag our feet. Deshaun's like, I'm literally retying knots right now. It's amazing.
I mean, I know you wanted him to throw the challenge because you thought it like I do understand strategically going into the game with less numbers, all that, but I am kind of from like never throw challenges because you don't know what these producers have up to their sleeves. And kind of also like you're saying, like they don't want anybody to ever not be trying something. So I could see them just like throwing something in there to punish them even for throwing this, two people are going home or something like that, just because like if they're pissed off for that happening. So I've always want people to do their best in those situations. So I was hoping that like they were not going to be able to throw the challenge and that they were just like were forced to win. That's the way that I was rooting, but I couldn't believe like how obvious it seemed. Like they're retying knots, as you've said, and then like Erica finds the key, and he's like, "Oh man," and then like he's like terribly doing the ring toss, and like, "Oh, I can't. Oh, it sucks. Oh." And then the series just like, give me that, and it's like boom, boom, and then like takes over. So like no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't throw the challenge, which I thought was very amusing, and it went the way that I wanted to go in the end.
Incredibly amusing, and we get a result that I really wasn't expecting, which is that Ua ends up losing again. This green tribe. JD, of course, doing his jump shots. He goes, money, and Shan's like, he should have shouted out tribal because that's where we're ending up.
I know, before she even said that, like I'm like writing down notes, and I'm just like, oh my god, that's the worst, saying money and then missing the shot, and then she's like totally like recognized the exact same thing. I was like, JD, man, you're gonna call your shot, make sure it's the right one.
Yeah. So post immunity, we get back to some strategizing, and we head straight to Ua, where Genie tells us that she wants to roll her die. And from the perspective of this episode, Genie appears to be pitching to JD that she's going to roll her die and that he should throw his vote onto Ricard. And he tells us he's not doing that, that he needs Ricard and Shan in the game, and he's just trying to convince her to not roll her die. Now, in his exit interview, he says that he actually had approached her to vote out Ricard, and that he was the one trying to pitch this, and that from his perspective, she wasn't into it, and she didn't give him the response he was looking for that said, hey, I'm on board, I'm willing to go with you and vote out Ricard, because he could have done that with his extra vote. But he didn't, for whatever reason. And I didn't get specifics as to like what it was about her response that he didn't like, but for whatever reason, he did not get that response, and ultimately decided again that he needs to double down on his relationship with Shan and Ricard, and vote out Genie. So this is the thing that made the least amount of sense to me, given what we're presented with in the episode, because the episode really presents it as Genie pitching to him, we should vote out Ricard, and him not being on board at all. Now, I think the way that I could maybe make this make sense is that maybe he had pitched this to her prior to this. and she didn't seem very receptive. And the idea that she would use her die, her shot in the dark, meaning she's going to give up her vote, would prevent him from being able to like successfully vote Ricard out if her roll fails. He's not going to vote out Ricard on her rolling the die, because if she doesn't land that 1 in 6 shot, now it's just a 2-to-1 vote where they vote out Genie, and he's now left. I just voted Ricard. So for those reasons, I can see something making sense, but we do see here that she seems to want to go on this other, this other idea, and JD telling us that he's really just trying to get her to not roll her die, which again maybe is because he doesn't want to roll her die because he actually wants to go with her. But the episode really presents it in this other way.
Well, that's what I don't understand with this kind of retelling as to what went on, because if he was really wanting to vote with Genie, vote out Ricard, use his extra vote, I feel like she was in the perfect position to say yes to that. So is it because he didn't share with her that he has the extra vote? He was so ineffective of convincing her that he was willing to vote with her and make that happen. They would have made it happen. And so I just don't understand what their conversation actually was, that he couldn't have convinced her to just be like, hey, I have a vote, you have a vote, I have an extra vote or a steal vote. Is it an extra vote or steal vote?
Extra vote.
Extra vote. I have an extra vote. That means it'll be 3-2. That means you'll be safe. Like, let's just do that. Lock this in right now. We can take out Ricard and we can work on Shan after. She's burned both of us now. Like, she'll be fine. She'll get over it. And it seems like it would be that easy. I didn't see why it would be hard to convince. And I was worried when they were originally walking and talking. I was like, Shan, you may have like said too much at the beginning of this episode, and like maybe he really burned JD that he's willing to flip. Like, I really thought that he was going to flip this vote onto Shan, or at least onto Ricard. And so the fact that he didn't make that happen, and that's what he wanted to happen, I think that that's what's very confusing for me. It should have been very easy to make that happen.
Yeah, it should have been. Clearly, Genie ends up trusting Shan more either way. Genie pitches to Shan that they should vote out Ricard, and Shan is like, "Oh no, that's not what we should do. We can trust Ricard a lot more than we can trust JD." And Shan says to us that Ricard has been her number one since day one, and that's the first confirmation we've gotten from her about this. Now it's become pretty obvious given the results of everything. Even in the first tribal, he's the one that she goes to pitch Brad. It still makes me a little bit confused as to why she took out Sarah so early, since Sarah seemed to be on board with both Ricard and Shan. But we did hear from Sarah that she was a little bit skeptical of Shan, so maybe that was the reason. Who knows? I'd love to hear from Shan, but probably won't be able to in a while. Or I don't know. I don't want to speak too soon. But she says Ricard's been her number one. She wants to convince Genie to not roll her die because JD is the real target. So the way the episode presents it is that JD is not the real target at this point. But given what we hear from JD about all the times he's pitched against Shan, it wouldn't surprise me if he was the target at this point. And that Shan talking to Genie about the things that Brad told her was her plan from the start, and that voting Brad out, the intention always was to then pull Genie in and vote JD out afterward, which I think is the right call if she can successfully pull Genie in. But she is worried about JD's extra vote. So she says to Ricard, she wants to act paranoid that JD's going to use his extra vote. Now, when I first saw this, I was like, oh no.
I was like, don't do this.
Way too much.
I was like, oh no, please, Shan, don't ruin you're doing so well. Like, just please don't do this. I was really worried.
Because the way that it's presented to us on the show is that she genuinely is feeling like, I want to remove his option to betray me with his extra vote, which in my opinion makes no sense, because if JD does plan to betray you with his extra vote, he's not going to give you his extra vote. If he doesn't plan to betray you with his extra vote, you don't need his extra vote. So getting the extra vote from JD in order to prevent him from turning on you makes no sense in that regard, right? It only makes sense if
You
you're
plan
trying
on
to
turning
steal
on
his vote.
him.
Yeah. Which again kind of makes me think like surely this was the plan all along. To vote out JD, and the plan was to steal his extra vote by getting it again, and getting being able to hold on to it. But again, the way it's presented to us is that she just genuinely wants to hold on to it so that he can't turn against her. And then once she has it, she's like, well, maybe I could keep it.
Well, you know what? Just kind of going on with that thought process is like at the beginning of the episode when he asked for her that vote back. Maybe she was never expecting him to ask for the vote back, and then being like, "Damn it, I want to have that vote." And so maybe like it just changed her thought process about it. Like I could see her being like, "I want that vote. I want to keep." I want to get rid of Brad just for the fact that he has that idol. He has like that extra advantage. That's just too much stuff that, and he has Genie as a number one. So let's take out that person right now. And then it's going to be put into the mix. So maybe I have an opportunity to get that other idol. And then, we can worry about JD next week. He's going to still trust me. I'll have his vote. We can vote, him out next. And then we can keep Genie in the tribe and she can still, work with us. And so, yeah, maybe it was a plan all along, but she didn't expect that JD would ask for that advantage back. And so she's like, damn it, I need that advantage back if I'm going to vote him out. So yeah, maybe that's why that went into action.
Yeah, well, she ends up talking to JD about holding on to it. He says,
I don't want to be that dummy who leaves their advantage back at camp. I came to contribute to the evolution of the game, not become one of the dummies who ruins it.
oh boy. Yeah. Because she initially, and I think this is what she does well. She initially pitches that he leave it at camp, which I don't know. I don't know what happens in that case, right? If he leaves it at camp, gets voted out, is it just free game? Does anybody
I
just
feel
take
like
it?
then you can kind of just find it at that point.
Right? Or does it then get like it's
Re-
gone? Right? Like
Well,
I
maybe
don't know.
she'd rather it be gone than him have it and could use it against her.
Right, but I like so that I think that's like pitching that he leave it at camp, I think is the right way to start because it sort of masks the idea of like I want it. It's like I just don't want you to have it. Okay, is the best way for us to do this that I hold on to it? Like I that approach I think makes more sense. It's a little bit more hidden than just like straight up asking for the extra vote. Unbelievably, she ends up getting the extra vote. And she reminds us about her song. Do, 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 do. And she's even humming it as she takes the advantage in his back, like in person, which is amazing.
So savage. I just was like, I think she was also shocked that he went along with it because she's like, yeah, thank you for trusting me for not trusting you. And like, it's like, oh my God. He doesn't see it at all. And he's just thinking that, she's just being paranoid. And I'm like, oh my God.
Incredible. I love what Shan is giving us this season. So what JD says in his exit interview is that because he's pitched to Genie that he wants to use his extra vote with Genie to vote out Ricard, he is concerned that Genie has ratted him out. So when Shan comes to him talking about being very worried that he's going to use his extra vote to blindside her, he's like, oh, well, she must have heard this from Genie. And that's partly why he felt like his only way out at that point was again to give her the extra vote to hold on to because Genie wasn't on board and ratted him out. This is his only way back in to prove that she can trust him, that it wasn't true, that he was actually going to do that because he doesn't need that extra vote, which does make a bit more sense, but still. He also says like Shan is a very good player, but she freaks out easily. One of the other things he said in the exit interview is that she'd basically done this before every tribal so far. She'd always been like, I'm worried about myself. And so it wasn't out of the ordinary for her to be very paranoid prior to tribal and talk about this sort of thing. So it didn't strike him as odd that she was, or didn't strike him as like her trying to get his extra vote for a particular reason. It was just Shan being Shan.
And I think that all of it is her gameplay because, like, I think even in the first episode, we saw her being a little bit paranoid. And it's like, we're just like, wait, you got the reins here. You know what's going on here. It's all about you making that vote. And she's like, oh, I feel like, oh, I don't know what's happening. I think that this is part of her gameplay and her strategy. And he just was eating it all up. And we saw she was shocked that he bought it. And yeah, I think it just goes to show that she's really playing way harder than he even has been considering. Like, he doesn't even realize that she's been playing since day one, like, for her to develop that type of relationship with you so that she would be able to manipulate you down the road. Like, she's been playing, and he really got outplayed. Like,
Yeah. So she says, oh my goodness, what if I just keep this extra vote for myself and we vote out JD? I might never get this opportunity again. She says, JD is like a little brother out here. And again, like, she feels bad. But she has a great line here. She says,
and I don't want to be a villain, but I do want to be an assassin.
An assassin. And the only concern is that she's worried that Genie may not trust her. And this is obviously the main concern. It's hard to make a move like this if you end up with a person now on your tribe that is not with you. Now, I don't think it matters that much because with JD's extra vote and the fact that you have a 2-to-1 advantage on Genie anyway, even if you do go to tribal one more time, you just vote out Genie, you head into the merge with 2 people. Who's going to be threatened by you? You can just hop onto a majority and work your way in from there. If you do have Genie, you now have 3 people. That's fine. If you don't have Genie and you don't vote her out, you go to a merge. She doesn't want to work with you. Is that much of an issue? Like first of all, what other option does she have? Second of all, there's nowhere to flip from. You're going to have to go to a majority in the first place. So it's not that big of a deal if Genie doesn't trust you, in my opinion. But if she does, all the better. So here we go. And I, at this point, I was like, this is a mistake to take his advantage if you're not going to vote him out. But if you're going to vote him out, oh, I love this. This is great.
That's exactly my thoughts.
I'm on board.
And I feel like they showed a lot of like the humming. They had the sound bite of like being the assassin as like, and then when they said that he's like a little brother, and then when they got to tribal, I was like, it's happening. It's happening.
Yeah, they talk about how it's hard to cut people. Genie really plays up that she's on the bottom. And when I was watching this live on Twitch, I was like, if Genie is telling the truth here, they can't keep her. I mean, she's so against them. But that's if she's telling the truth, right? Which she wasn't. I mean, well played by Genie, who very successfully convinces JD that she is on the outs. So much so that JD, he's going to give us one more soundbite here. He says,
just make sure we all do what we said we were going to do.
He's hitting all of the beats, right? Like the classic fool me once. You're not gonna fool me again. In the same episode that he gets fooled, he's gonna give away his thing right before he gets voted out. He's gonna pull a Keith Nail, stick to the plan. He's hitting all the beats. I don't know that they're the beats he wants to hit, but man, is this a great episode. In my opinion, a great episode for JD. I want to see this guy play Survivor every season.
Absolutely. And I've been talking about him a lot, obviously, because this was a huge episode for him. I would love to see what he's like in a couple years if he came back, and then 5 years if he came back, and then 10 years if he came back. Because I do feel that he's eager, yes, but I think he's just a little bit too young, and this is why he gets outplayed so easily, and has these sound bites that are like, okay, he knows the right thing, but he doesn't have the instinct to play the game effectively yet. And so I want to see him learn and stumble through this game again. Absolutely. Because just getting that wink alone, like, thanks for the wink. The wink right before you get voted out. Like, I can't. Like, it's just like, what? Please, let's see JD again. I'm here for it.
Yes. So the second we see that Genie did not roll her die, I was like, oh, it's happening. And it does. JD is out and he gives us a Kyland moment. He's any particular reason? And so we love you. We love you. And it hurts. He was talking about like he wants to stay longer. He's checking things off of his bucket list. And it's a brutal way to go. But that's the best way to go. I mean, what an exit. And he says to us, man, at least my hair looked good. And it did. I mean, crushed it with the look. It looked amazing. Just everything about this was pitch perfect. I think that JD should be, and he's perfectly, I'm sure he feels terrible. I'm sure he wanted to stay longer. But from my perspective, like I would love to go out in such a glorious fashion. I mean, what a way to go.
Absolutely. I was talking about this a lot with players from this most recent South Africa season. And it's like the super fans were like, I got to go out in an epic fashion. Like, I'm a super big player of this game. I don't want to go out and just like, numbers advantage, but like I want a blind side that I just did not see coming just to come wipe me out and me be gobsmacked. Like as a fan, that's the only way that I want to go out and win. And so this is how I feel like he got that opportunity to have an epic moment and an epic way to go out. And if we relate it back to Big Brother, like the way Claire went out, that's the only way you can go out in Big Brother is by like your closest ally taking you out. Like these are the moments that you need from these shows as fans to be taken out if you're not going to win the season. So I think that he doesn't realize it now, but he really got his moment. He got a real Survivor experience, and he will be asked back down the road. And so he's young. He has so much time to play, so many more times, and he got to start his first season epically. Like I think it's great for him.
Yeah, and to be clear, like we're not saying that like he shouldn't feel bad or that like like he should feel grateful or anything like that. Like again, he can feel however he wants about the way he left, and I'm sure it's still. I mean, it sucks regardless, right?
Yeah.
But there, I do think there is some upside here. At the end of the day, so. That's the episode. We did get a secret scene with the Yellow Tribe. It was mostly just, again, more like Tiffany talking about being mentally exhausted and how this is like another level of Survivor. She's never felt so weak. But it's mostly just like her telling us how much it sucks. Like, I'm not really seeing.
Yeah, what's the other level? Like, I'm like, it's not that much more difficult than any other season that I've seen, except for a couple people don't have votes. Like, I don't know. I can't tell that they're that hungry. I can't tell that cold. So I don't know yet. I don't get it. Where is the monster? I need to see the monster.
There hasn't even been like a big storm or anything.
Nothing.
But that's really it. I mean, not a lot of other content. We wove the exit interview in throughout the episode. I really do feel like this was the payoff to the last 3 episodes. And I think we're gonna get obviously one more before what I imagine to be the merge at 12, maybe.
12?
Who knows?
Do you think so? I guess I guess that works for if there's a 3-person to have an uneven number, but I guess that also doesn't matter. So yeah, I guess it could be 12.
Yeah, because I mean, because like if they were merging at 13, I feel like they usually preview the merge. Like usually when it's the next episode of the merge, it's in the preview. We did not get that this episode. So if that's the case, if there's no merge in the next episode, then I have to imagine it has to be at 12 because how can you have a merge at 11 with 3 tribes of 6? Like, again, what if one tribe lost every challenge? Like you'd be completely out of. Now it does make sense because they forced 2 tribes to go to tribal in the first one to go all the way to 12 because no one tribe could lose all 6 players all the way until 12, but at 11 they could have lost. If there was one, there could theoretically be one. If let's say Yasa lost these last 2, they would be down to 2 players right now. And then if they, if they get one more person gone at 13, going into 12, they have one person left at 12. And then if they waited until 11, they could theoretically be just gone. Like that one person could lose immunity and then just like by default be out, I guess. So I have to imagine it's 12. But who knows? I don't know that they're always gonna do things that make sense.
Yeah, I don't know. They might not be thinking that far ahead. Like, they might not think that it's possible for. When we saw though with like that one season with Stephanie like being the last person standing in her tribe, so they know it's possible that a team can be completely decimated. So especially if there's only 6 people, it's very possible that they can lose 6 times. So I
Yeah,
hope
and
that they think it through.
I don't think that they need an uneven amount of players at the merge to like try to get like a tie vote situation to not happen, because first of all, 3 tribes into 1 merge tribe, and then second, there's a bunch of extra votes. There should theoretically be a steal a vote. Like there's plenty of ways for the vote to get wonky and not be just a deadlock at 6. So I don't think that they should be too concerned about that. But that's what we have for the episode. Chantel, any final thoughts on the episode before we move on to the player ratings?
I mean, I just hope that this is the beginning of the season to be continuing in this direction. Like, I like seeing us learn about the characters through their motivations within the game. I just like I've never been one to really care about any advantages. I didn't like in the beginning, obviously immunity idols like coming into play. I don't mind the one that you win, individual, like that's all fine. But like the hidden ones, I was like, okay, and then it just got a little bit too much for me. Like I like the pure gameplay, but whatever. I have to like change and evolve with the season. So I was allowing it to happen. And I haven't seen Survivor in a couple of years. Like, okay, fine, whatever you're gonna do. I'm glad to have Survivor back on my screen. But this episode just shows me that what I like is good. And so I hope that they just continue in this direction and just realize that let's not try to force like these interesting votes to happen. Let's just let them play and watch it happen. Like watch it actually evolve naturally. And so hopefully they're just like, oh, hey man, these people, when they play the game, it actually works and it's very compelling. Like, let's let them do that. So fingers crossed, but I'm loving Survivor. It's just nice to see it on my screen again.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into the player ratings then. This is where we're going to rate the players from 1 to 10, 1 being the worst. They're playing very poorly, have basically no chance to win the game. Maybe they even got voted out. And 10 being they're playing incredibly, front runner to win the game on that scale. And we're gonna go tribe by tribe in the order of from like worst to best or best to worst. Depending on which order we're gonna go through. And I know that people did want the photos last time, so I brought them back this time. So here are the photo, the visual, if you're watching along. So we're gonna start with the UA, the green tribe. They went to tribal, and of course, at the bottom of the green tribe is JD, who did get voted out this episode. Just a brutal way to go. I mean, from what we saw, he went from safe to getting himself voted out. And even if what we saw was not the full story, and we take what he said in the exit interview, it still means that he was not able to convince Genie to go with him and trust him. And instead, Genie trusted Shan, the person who just betrayed her in the previous tribal. So much so that that Genie didn't even feel like she had to use her shot in the dark. There was just something about JD that she did not trust. I mean, he managed to, I guess, ruin the relationship with Brad and Genie in that first tribal, even though he was saving them. Like there's a disconnect somewhere that is not working. I didn't go all the way down to a 1 for JD. Maybe I should have, but I gave him a 2. Because I do think that with some of his explanations in the exit interviews, Some of these moves are not quite as bad as they appear in the edit, but that's, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt just a little bit. But it was still, I think this is still like the worst rating I've given in the season, because what a what a bad episode here for JD strategically. Chantel, how do you feel about JD?
I mean, I appreciate your generosity here. But I personally, I could only give him a 1
Hmm.
for the sound bites that you were able to grab of the things that he said, and the wink and the money, and like
Oh,
all the
yeah.
things that him calling all the shots wrong, bad calls all around. It just showed that he had no grasp of what was really going on in the game. Like, yes, he had some power, and he really could have made some really good moves that were going to put him in a really great position in the game. He was actually probably positioned the best in the game, because like he had both sides that wanted him to vote with them. So he had Genie that he apparently wanted him to vote out Ricard, and then he wanted that they had Shan and Ricard that wanted obviously to vote out Genie, and he had an extra vote. So he in this should be in the point position actually to be able to call the shot correctly, and he couldn't do it. He had all the cards and he let all the cards tumble, and he lost. So for playing that badly, I have to give him a 1, even though I really appreciate his tenacity and his, desire to play this game and play it well. I just don't think he managed to do so on any level, really, this episode. And yeah, numero uno.
Yeah. Well, next up is Genie. I have Genie on the tribe here, who I gave Genie a 4 this week. Now in the previous week, I had given Genie a 4 as well. Because I felt like she was in some trouble, and what we had seen from her in the last episode was not great. And now she does survive, and here's what I like about Genie's position. I like that obviously she didn't get voted out here. I mean, that was great in a spot where she very well could have. But I didn't love that she was so vocally upset after the previous tribal. That just like it's not typically how you want to react to something like that. You want to show people that you are capable of being okay with that and working with them still. I loved her performance at Tribal. I thought it was very convincing, and she definitely helped sell to JD that she was in trouble. I loved that. But now it's almost a given that she's a goner if Ua loses again, which is a very real possibility. So that puts her in a very, very vulnerable spot. However, she probably only needs to survive one tribal more before some kind of either swap or merge. So so overall that balanced back out to a 4 for me.
Yeah, you're so kind today, Sharon. I mean, I didn't go that low. I went to a 3 with
Mhm.
Genie, and the reason why is that I just don't feel as though she did anything to save herself in this game, really. She played her role, so she was able to obviously perform in Tribal to make it convincing for JD. But if Shan and Ricard didn't want to go with Genie, that wouldn't have happened. Like, she would have been gone out. And so I just don't feel that much confidence in her being able to, even if she gets to, the merge, to go and get people to do what she wants to do. I don't feel like she has any social capital in this particular game to be able to get what she wants done. It seems that she's just kind of sticking around like anybody but me, like not really making any actual moves. And then, like you also said, she shouldn't have blown up with them, because it just allows them to be like, well, she obviously wanted to stay, so she voted with us right now, but I can see her popping off and still being mad at us. So I'm giving her a 3. I don't think that she's going to win this game. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Genie. I like you though.
Well, next up, I had Ricard, who, I mean, Ricard, he is stuck with Shan throughout this tribe as it's been whittled down. Clearly should be making the merge. I mean, even if they lose again, Genie would have to use her shot in the dark and hit that 1 in 6 shot in order to have a chance at Ricard leaving instead of her. And given what we see in the next time on, where it appears that Genie might have found that you lose your vote advantage, she may be dead in the water to begin with.
Brutal.
Which, and again, I wouldn't take that for granted. The previews like to trick you. This may be another like go to Advantage Island thing that she finds, and not the lose your vote one, because she knows what that lose your vote one is. She found it with Brad, or Brad found it with her the first time. So I don't know why she would open it if she found it. Maybe she found it and put it back. Maybe she doesn't open it, and that's what the preview is tricking us with. But anyway, Ricard, he's in a great spot to make the merge or swap or whatever it is that's coming. And he did, I think it's no small feat to survive a 6-person tribe that gets whittled down like this. However, he does seem to continue to rub people the wrong way. I mean, JD wanted him out, Genie wanted him out. Just like the only person he seems to have really gotten along with in this tribe was Sarah, who's gone, and Shan, who luckily for him is running the tribe. So for those reasons, I can't go too high on him, but I did give him a 6. I feel like his connection to Shan, if Shan succeeds, he's probably going to succeed for a while as well. I don't think he can beat her in the end, given what we've seen so far, but it still puts him in a pretty good position moving forward. So it's a 6 from me.
Okay, I thought I went a little bit higher than you for him. Now, I agree with everything that you said, but I do feel that he was able to make the connection with the right person to keep him in this game. And we already talked about the fact that if they go into merge and they're down, there's 2 or 3 people from that tribe, they're not going to be sticking out as like, oh, let's go get these 3 people out of here. Like, no, they'll be very easily be able to say like, hey, like Danny's going to be really capable at these individual immunities, and maybe to Shan as well. Like, I feel like there's other people that they can point their fingers around. And it seems like him and Shan have a really good strategic bond, that they're able to talk about who they want to go out and make these things happen. So I feel as though, because he has somebody that he trusts so much in Shan as his number 1, I think that it's going to help him get through this game. And so for that, that's why I gave him a 7. I think that he's linked up with the right person to get him the furthest in the game. And I think that he'll be able to fade into the background come merge. And, he's going to be more likable with like him and Shan, like as a little duo, twosome, friendly. People are going to probably like them as a pair, as like a friendship. And so I think that he's do better than he did on this this original tribe when it comes to merge. So I have higher hopes than you do of him.
All right. Well, at the top of this tribe, unsurprisingly, she has not been dethroned yet on the Green tribe. I've got Shan, who last week I was a little bit concerned about Shan. I did, given certain reasoning for the move that she made last week to take out Brad, I felt like it was not necessarily the worst move. But I didn't love that she was in a position where she was continuing to lose her allies. This episode, she continues to have to lose her allies, which is not great. But I think losing JD is not that much of a loss for her. Again, going from 4 to 3 and even 3 to 2 is not going to make that much of a difference when it comes to what she has to do in a merge or even a swap potentially. And the fact that she managed to swipe a steal a vote out of this, I mean, great stuff, great play. Genie clearly trusted her enough to not do her shot in the dark, which is huge. I mean, Shan just continues to impress. Just like her position hasn't necessarily improved a whole lot from the previous week. But getting that extra vote is huge. And the play this week was so impressive. I gave her a 9. I love what she's doing. I mean, getting that steal a vote, I mean, twice in a row from JD and then voting him out, that's stuff of legends. And I love what she's doing. So it's a 9 from me.
We agree on one. Yay! So I gave Shan a 9 as well. I was worried when like how some things were going down, and then I'm like, oh no, it went down this way. Like how things ended up shaping out at the end of the episode, I was like, okay, that she played that excellently, and so I do feel that she's capable of doing well in the merge. I think it seems that people, even when they really shouldn't, they want to trust her. They want to tell her about their advantages. They want to let her hold on to advantages. They allow her to basically vote, give the opportunity for them to vote them out. I just feel as though she is kind of like a silent or a secret assassin because they don't really see that she's coming and they just kind of play into it. So she has some sort of mist that people are willing to trust her. And it's not going to just be her tribe here. I think that that's going to follow through when they get to emerge. People are going to want to hang out and be with her and like work with her, tell her all of her secrets. And so I think that she's lining herself up to be doing really well in this game. And I'm really enjoying watching. So I love giving high numbers for people that I enjoy their gameplay. I enjoy seeing them on the screen. I enjoy seeing what she is going to do. And that shows me that she's playing a game that I want to watch. And that must be a pretty good one. So 9 from me too.
Yeah, and she can definitely go into a merge or a swap being completely underestimated. People who have not been able to talk to her before will not know how she has played. Something that Rob and Steven talked about is that like if it happens pre-merge, is it really going to impact like her winning potential? And people won't have known what she's done. They're not going to know how impressive it was. But I think the fact that she has this extra vote, once she plays the extra vote, assuming she does, people are gonna be like, how did she get that? And that's something that she can be like, I got that because I took it from somebody and then I blindsided them. That's something that you can be like, I was super impressive in the pre-merge. And it's a flashy enough thing that it's not just like, oh, I was great in the pre-merge because I voted everyone else out. It was like, oh no, I killed it. And I think it's something that could really add to her resume if she does make it to the end. But I'm assuming that if she makes it to the end, she'll be doing some great things to begin with. So not really overly concerned about that in the first place. Let's move on to Luvu, the Blue Tribe. Still has not gone to Tribal. Now, for me, Erica is going to be at the bottom this time. She has been very neutral in my ratings thus far. I've just been giving her 5s because I've gotten nothing from her. But unfortunately, in this episode, we finally got something and it was not great. She made a big mistake overestimating her relationship with Shan, not realizing that he was closer with Sydney. And I mean, she got an entire tribe willing to throw a challenge just to take her out, it seems. Which was not even the case with, I mean, like, Danny didn't have the whole tribe throwing the challenge to take out Nasir. They didn't have the whole tribe throwing the challenge to take out Heather. They did want to for Erica. Does not speak well of her game. So I gave her a 3.
I gave her a 3 as well. I really wanted her to, when she came out, that she's going to be like this great player because we haven't seen that much about her because that she's been on this winning tribe, and so they haven't been focusing on her story. And so I was really hoping that she was actually getting in really well with like Deshawn and Danny and even Sydney. Like I thought that was like the core 4, and that maybe Heather and Nasir might have been on the outskirts a little bit. And so the fact that that's where I thought that she was positioned, which probably means that she's kind of was close to that. And then she's completely derailed that by like going and targeting somebody that's basically in their alliance, we'll say. I think it was beyond a misplay. It was like game ruining. Her chances of winning are going super low because I can even see like, so say that the merge happens next episode and they go in 6, not strong. I can easily see, Deshawn and Danny and Sydney, like that whole tribe being like, hey, let's like all come together. Like, I know that we have a lot of numbers here. Let's just take out Erica. Like, and then, Blue doesn't have as strong as number in the numbers. And so I just see that she would be easily sacrificed by anybody on that tribe now, which means that she's in a terrible position. So she gets a 3, like she doesn't get lower than a 3 because I do think she's capable of winning stuff. She seems decently strong. She seems good at puzzles. So that might be able to save her, especially if it is a merge. Maybe she could win like an individual immunity if it's like a balancing thing as well. But socially, she's not doing so well, so she can't get too high there. So a 3 also from me.
Hmm. All right. So after Erica, I have Heather. Uh, well, let's start with you on Heather. How do you feel about Heather? Do you feel
I
like she's up from Erica?
She's at the same as Erica for me. She's at a 3. And now I she could have gone down potentially to like a 2 or a 1, but I think that how the tribe rallied around her and didn't make her feel bad about her performance and whether it was gameplay or not, or they were lying, or it didn't matter that much because it was a reward challenge, they were willing to make her feel welcome and make her feel not bad about her performance. And so the fact that she seems to be decently liked in the tribe, I think is going to bode well for her. But I do think that she is expendable for the other people, kind of like how Erica is at the merge. I'm sure that they'd be willing to give up Heather if like they just if they're trying to have a meeting of minds and like, okay, I'll sacrifice one of my people, and I could see her being on that list. And so I don't see her really making any moves to advance herself in this game. I also don't see her saying the right things. Like, yeah, I love that secret seed of hers, but like, how did it help her game other than put a target on her with Sydney and make Sydney
Mhm.
be like, oh, like maybe I should take her out. I didn't know that she was coming for me. So it was fun, but I don't know if it was a great game move. I do think there's a possibility that she can get dragged to the end just because people think that she could beat her. They could beat her, but I don't think that she can win or kind of maneuver her way to the end on her own. So she's kind of just there. So a 3.
Yeah. Well, I moved her up one to a 4 from
Mhm.
where she was before. And that's mostly just because I think she benefits from Erica's mistake, right?
That's true.
If Erica is now at the bottom, that's good for Heather. It means that Heather should be good. And given the fact that again, I expect some kind of swap or merge after at least one more after just one more tribal, that means that if Heather is still or if Erica is still the target, Heather should be able to make the swap or merge where she can get into potentially a better position. So for that reason, I moved her up just one. But beyond that, she's still the one that had a
It's
dream.
a hopeful 4, but
Yeah.
like
Um, After Heather, I put Nasir
oh, this
here.
year. Okay.
Yes, Nasir below Sydney for me still just because of current positioning. And I have Nasir also at a 4. I also think that Erica's mistake is good for Nasir. I moved Nasir up. He was a 3 last week. With a merge looming, I think he's in a spot where he can get out of this, and I do think that Nasir is in a better position to swap into a better position than Heather is, just because he doesn't talk about dreams. But he is still somebody that we've seen make a couple of mistakes, already, right? Multiple times we've seen him make mistakes when it comes to trusting the wrong people, telling the information to the wrong people, usually involving Sydney. But I still don't know that I feel great about his game instincts. But he seems so likable that if somebody's looking to pull somebody over, I feel like Nasir is a great person to pull over. So I feel like he is in a position to be boosted up from here, but he needs to survive this next tribal and make this swap or merge. And I think he has to get out of this. And I'm worried that he might be like, is he? I know he's been talking about like maybe targeting Danny, but that's if they had to go to tribal. I don't think he's the kind of guy that would throw a challenge. And I don't know if he's the kind of guy that's going to flip and not be loyal to his people. And I don't think that's the move for him because I don't think his people are very loyal to him. I would love to see him flip if he got there. So, but I don't know if he will. So, very interested to see where Nasir goes. I think it's looking like he'll survive till the merge or whatever. But for now, still just a 4 for me. What do you think?
I went up a little bit with him. I did feel like the fact that he basically won the immunity for the tribe and saved them from going to tribal council. I think it showed that he is capable of doing really well in these challenges, that he has potential to win these individual immunities. He's not in a great position, but I still think is a little bit better than, you know, how you have Heather at a 4. So I went up to a 5 with him. He's just kind of middle of the road. Like, he's making some mistakes, but he's kind of able to balance it out by doing well with, you know, creating fire and doing all the other things around camp. And then he is winning these challenges for them, even though they don't want him to. So I think, yeah, he's in the middle. And I could see him being convinced to move with somebody else come merge, because, yeah, he had this idea already that maybe we need to go after Danny. And if his tribe won't listen to him to do that, well, I'm sure I can find someone at the merge that will think that this big guy is somebody that we need to take out. Let me go move with that and get my agenda to be heard. And so I think that he will make it, even if they go to tribal. Well, if they go to tribal once, I think he's going to be fine. And I think that by then he'll be able to make it to the merge. And once he's in the merge, I think he will be able to nestle in, because he's not standing out at all. He has 2 big guys that are right ahead of him that everybody can see doing well in these challenges as well. And so I think that he will be able to slip by and has power to make a move. Like, I think he would make a move.
Yeah. All right. Well, above Nasir, I have Sydney. Do you agree with that? Do you have Sydney over Nasir, or do you have?
I was thinking that Sydney was next, just because I thought that, like, before Nasir, just because I felt that she was kind of like, people are always coming for her, right? And so, like, yes, she's protected, it seems, by Deshaun and by Danny. So she's in a better position in the tribe than Deshaun is, but nobody seems to be saying his name, right? Like, everybody wants to get out Sydney, and she didn't even recognize that people are trying to get her out. So I just felt that she doesn't necessarily have a great grasp on how she is coming across with the other people in her tribe, which isn't great. I find her fun to watch and she's amusing, but I don't know. Like, I feel like this is going to be something that's repeated once they get to emerge. People are not going to necessarily like her, and people could rally behind getting her out. And so, yeah, because of that, I thought that she was maybe a little bit behind Nasir, but just that, yeah.
So what would you give her?
Give her a 5 as well, though.
Yes, that's where I was as well. You know, last week I gave her a 5. This week I gave her a 5 as well. You know, and for all the reasons you said. I mean, on one hand, we've seen that Deshaun trusts her more than Erica. Deshaun is protecting her. Deshaun wants to throw a challenge to take out Erica. You know, again, we're not seeing they're not throwing a challenge to take out Nasir to protect Danny, but they are throwing a challenge to take out Erica to protect Sydney. I think that's great for her current positioning, and it speaks well to her ability to entrench herself in the power structure. However, on the other hand, yet another person who is rubbed the wrong way by Sydney. That does not speak well of her chances once she is not protected by this power structure. So, so overall, it balances out to a 5 for me. Okay. After this, we have the top 2, Danny and Deshaun. Chantele, who do you have at the top of this tribe, Danny or Deshaun?
I don't know. Okay, I mean, I think that I have Deshaun at the top. So next would be Danny and then Deshaun. The reason why I have Deshaun at the top of this tribe is it seems that everybody comes to him with information. People, it's kind of like how Shan has some sort of miss that people want to tell her stuff and trust him. And this seems is what he gives off to other people as well. You know, he trusts Sydney more than he trusts Erica, but like Erica still is coming to him and giving her all this information that he's easily able to use against Erica. So with that, with Evie just divulging everything, I do feel that if it was ever between Danny and him at the merge, that he would be protected over Danny. I think people would want to keep him around more than Danny. And even Nasir, when Sydney was talking to him last episode, like she's like, oh no, like Deshaun, he's fine. Like he didn't even see him as a threat. So the fact that he's not even appearing to be a threat and he has so much power in this game, I think that shows that even though the other tribe members don't know this or can see it, that he is at the top of this particular tribe. And yeah, that's why I'm going to have to put him in the top spot. I'm going to give him a 9. I think he's doing well. I think that, I didn't necessarily want him to throw the challenge, but I understand strategically why that would be best for him to go with 5 people as opposed to 6. That totally makes sense to me, but just, the survivor player in me doesn't want people to throw shit. But yeah, I think that he's making the right moves. He's making the connections with the right people. And when he's telling this information even to Sydney, it was in a way that doesn't make her pop off and go and tell Erica and like have like his whole game be blown up by Sydney getting mad. And so he seems to even be able to use this information effectively with his allies. So yeah, I think he's in a good spot, and I'm going to give him a 9.
Yeah, I also have him at the top of the tribe. He just continues to be in a power position there. As you mentioned, Erica trusts him enough to go to him with this information about Sydney when she really shouldn't. Unlike Danny and Sydney, who have both had people talk about targeting them, we've heard nobody talk about targeting Deshawn. On top of that, I personally liked his throwing the challenge plan. And something that people may have forgotten. Again, he has this connection with Evie, with a potential merge or swap approaching. He's got that in. Evie told him so much information where even if Evie doesn't work with him because they've got better options, he has dirt on Evie to flip Xander or something along those lines to make something else work, plus his extra vote and Xander's extra vote. There are a few different ways that information and that situation can work out for him. I love his position. The only reason I am not with you at a 9 is just that I haven't seen him tested at a tribal yet.
Sure.
Right. So,
Sure.
So I have him at an 8, but I think a 9 is very fair. And then Danny, I still have at a 7. Just no real strategic update here from Danny. I loved how he handled the Heather situation. I think that speaks really well to his social ability. And I think that I feel very good about him, but nothing to really change where I was at with him last week, which was a 7 as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that with this particular tribe, for most of them, the numbers are bumped up just because we haven't seen them be tested. So I have Danny at an 8, but I can see him being at a 7, and I can see them being at an 8 as well, because we haven't seen, as you've said. So I have him today at an 8. I do think that he's in a decent position. He is able to strategize with Deshawn. It seems like whatever him and Deshawn decide to do is what kind of happens. They didn't expect Nasir to go and win it for them, but they were both willing to throw this challenge to make this happen and make this decision. And so that shows that he is willing to work with people, that he's not going to necessarily put his foot down and be like, no, and go against particular plans. It seems like he's malleable and able to work with other people, but he's also able to excel really well in these challenges. So I think he's in a obviously his second best position on this particular tribe. He might be targeted once we get to emerge just because of, just his presence. But I think that he's doing pretty well. So I'm going to give him an 8, but I can see him being a 7 as well. I think that's a fair score too.
All right. Let's move on to the yellow tribe. Chantele, who do you have at the bottom of Yasa?
It was really hard to tell because we didn't see that much of that tribe. I'm going to put Xander at the bottom of this particular tribe because from what we've seen up until now, he's the next person to go. He doesn't have a vote, so he doesn't have any leverage really in the game. His other person, Brad, was just voted out of the game, which is his only hope that maybe another person's going to find, and he's going to have an active idol. So he has a dud idol right now. And he's just kind of a sitting duck in his tribe as to be the person that's going to be voted out next. And especially with Tiffany excelling even more in these challenges, it's making his value kind of go down a little bit for his value. value in this tribe. And so when they get to emerge, they're not going to really want to have this young, really athletic guy that's capable of winning these individual immunities. So I just think that he's in a terrible position in this game. He's just waiting to be voted out, basically, or waiting for maybe somebody to find something. So maybe he has his vote back and has it as an idol. And he maybe get voted out before that happens. So yeah, I have him the lowest. I have him at a 3.
A 3. So this is a tough one for me because I feel like the closer we come to emerge, the better a position Xander is in, right? Because he then will have options. He can stick with Yasa, or I think he's in the best position to flip away. And he has that extra vote, which makes him particularly valuable as a number to anybody looking for his number. And what we've seen of his social game and really even strategic game, he seems very impressive. I mean, they all loved him, and for whatever reason, they all decided to keep him over Voce, even though it made a bit more sense to take him out instead. So for those reasons, I still feel pretty good about Xander, especially if he only needs to again survive one more tribal. All they need to do is not be last place, and he's fine. And even then, I'm not sure that the plan is to take Xander out if they go to tribal again. Again, going all the way back to episode 2. My theory was that Evie may have had Xander in on the vote against Voce, and maybe keeping her options open or keeping their options open to take out somebody like Tiffany instead if they went to tribal. But yeah, who knows? We've seen so little from them since that tribal. I have no idea what the tribal dynamics are at this point. But for those reasons, I gave him a 5 this week.
5.
I feel
I was hovering at a 4 or 5. Okay.
I feel like he's still okay. And I'm not sure that he's gonna end up going. But it's just like we've seen so little. It's hard to say. I also have Tiffany at a 5. And this has moved up from last week where we saw that she kind of clashed with Sydney. I feel like that was not great. And again, I also feel like I'm not sure where she stands on this tribe. I don't know if she's going to be safe moving forward if they do go to tribal. However, I do think that the closer they come to a swap or a merge, the better for Tiffany as well. I think that Tiffany is also somebody that will evaluate her own personal situation and decide whether it's best for her to flip or to stay with her tribe. If they don't have the numbers, I think she's absolutely somebody that would flip. And I think that's all very good for her. So for me, I gave her a 5.
Yeah, I'm with you here with Tiffany. I do think that she's kind of risen since the paranoia and getting Voce voted out over Xander, but she did make that happen. And so it does seem that her strategy so far of being able to get her agenda across was effective for that vote when she wanted it to be. And so that leads me to believe that she may be able to have this power of persuasion moving down the road. I don't think that Evie and Liana would take her out at this point. I do think that they would stay strong with keeping like the 3 women of Yasa together. And so that bodes well. I see her flipping to whatever suits her. It come merge like in a heartbeat. And I could definitely see her putting herself in a better position with the numbers. I do not see her being loyal to Yasa at all, which I think is good for her because, if it's only 3 of them or 4 of them, like she's kind of in the bottom of the Yasa tribe. So I see her flipping and putting herself in a better position. Absolutely. So I do see her doing better than Xander for sure. And she's proving that she's a little bit more of a competitor than she had been up until these last couple of episodes. So she could win some of these individual immunities. I wouldn't be surprised now. But yeah, but I don't trust that she won't rub some people the wrong way. And so that's why I kind of keep her in the middle of the road. We didn't see a lot of strategy going on with this tribe. So I don't fully know how much they actually trust her and if it's just numbers right now, and how they plan on working together moving forward. So she's getting middle of the road for me, but she has room to go up, but I'm tentative.
Well, that leaves us with the top two on the tribe, which is Evie and Liana. And for me, this week, I actually decided to go with Liana in the top spot, which meant Evie in the number 2 spot. And here's why. Now, I'm still giving Evie a 7, which is what I've been giving them the last few weeks. Just not really seeing anything from them. Like it's hard to go too much higher. But I really did not like Evie dumping all that information on Deshaun back in episode 2. And the closer we get to a potential merge, the more dangerous that information becomes, I think, for Evie. Because, first of all, Evie, I think, is lock safe on their tribe. I mean, they're never going anywhere. They're in the power position. But once they hit a merge, they no longer have that safety. They have to rework where they're at. And the fact that the fact that they've given up so much information on Xander is so dangerous to me. Like Deshaun should so easily be able to flip Xander away from Evie. Yeah, they told me all about your advantages. They said that you needed to go. Like all kinds of stuff. I think that's very dangerous for Evie if they don't land themselves in a good enough position to withstand that kind of thing. Now, I think that their connection to Deshaun may help in that maybe they can join forces and there's no reason for Deshaun to reveal that information to Xander yet. But if that doesn't happen, I'm concerned for their position, and I think that they are a little bit more vulnerable because that information is out there than somebody like Liana. So I have Evie here at number 2 on the tribe with a 7 overall.
Yeah, I gave Evie a 7 as well. But I also gave Liana a 7. But I could, so they're pretty much interchangeable. I do agree with what your points are, what you're saying about Evie. I was really upset with them for divulging all that information to Deshaun. It's like, we know that information is power in these games. And yes, maybe divulge some of it just to like put some trust in there. But the fact that Xander's still in the game and they divulge all that information that Xander was going to be the person that was voted out and then he wasn't, it's very easy now for Deshaun being like, hey, you know, Evie gave all this information about you. Let's use that against them. And so I don't think that they put themselves in the best position there necessarily, but it could work, and that could allow them and Deshaun to really be able to work together. And they've already have this bond, so it could be completely different than we're kind of anticipating. But the riskiness of it is not favorable, and so we're going to see, obviously, in the next few episodes whether or not it was a mistake. But for that reason, I agree with you. She's not, or they're not in the number 1 spot here. I think that Liana is playing a little bit of a better game, but both getting 7s for me.
Yes. Liana also got a 7 from me. I mean, we didn't really get much of an update here for Liana. It's more that Evie moved a little bit down with an approaching merge for me than Liana moving up. But I just still feel generally good about Liana. She seems very personable, good at challenges. And, I don't have any reason to think that she would be in more trouble than anybody else on this tribe come the merge. So top spot there for me, but also with a 7. So there we go. There we go. That's it. We got through them all.
Woo! The only one shocker is the Xander shot. I'm like, 5 seems so high. I mean, I do hear your points there with him. I could bump up to a 4. I just don't know if I see him being that strategic. But we haven't seen it yet. So this is for the fact that, like, I just haven't seen what he's able to do, and he has no power in this game, and he's kind of just like waiting for other things to happen for him to be able to move forward. I don't think that's a great position to be in. So I want to see more from him. I'm willing to give him a 5, but I haven't seen it yet.
No, it's very fair. I mean, from my perspective, I was impressed with him in the first couple of episodes. The only thing I didn't like was him telling Evie about his advantages. But again, that may have been what saved him that week. We don't know exactly what went down on that in that tribal. And then I really liked how he incorporated the butterfly thing last episode.
That's
That was
okay. We'll give him
very
a
clever.
4 then. For that,
Well, that
he
was
did
for
it
last
so much
episode.
better. Pardon?
That was last episode, so we can't get credit for it this
Okay,
episode.
fine.
But I think the big thing is if he is somebody that is decent enough strategically, then I do think he becomes so valuable in a merge where he gets that extra vote and he doesn't necessarily have any ties, any like overt loyalty to Yasa. So I feel like he's going to be in a position where like he'll really be tested, and if at that point he drops the ball, then he'll drop the ball. But it'll be interesting, I think, to see where that goes. But that's what we've got. I mean, what a great episode. Interesting discussion here on the players. Very excited to see where we move forward from here. And the thing about these advantages is that they did add to this episode. I mean, the fact that Shan stole the advantage from JD is great. I mean, the advantage had to exist in order for that to happen. I think the problem is that in the previous episode, it was all advantages. You only need some in there, and I think you should only focus so much on them. So we'll see. Again, in the preview for the next one, it looks like we're going to be finding some more. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, and I'm wondering though if it's at least just like the go to the Beware Island or whatever. Like, hopefully it's that one that Genie found. And that maybe Shan will get the other one. Like, I'm wondering also though, they haven't showed us, but has Luvu just not been looking for the idol? Because like there's been no talks about it that we've seen. I want to see if goats on AstroTurf or whatever that is be set at Tribal.
It is very strange to me. Part of me wonders if Deshaun, with that information from Evie, was like, just so you guys know, if you find the Beware advantage, it's going to take away your vote. Don't pick it up.
But show
And
us
so
that,
like,
right?
right, like I mean, I don't know if they would, because I don't know if they'd want to show us that it's broken, that
Oh.
like this is never going to happen, right?
Right.
But it's also possible that didn't happen. They're just not finding it, or maybe maybe Deshaun has told his ally. I'm sure Deshaun has told his allies that. So like maybe Sydney and Danny know not to. Maybe they did find it and turned it down. But maybe there's still a possibility. Who knows? But it is very strange that 4 episodes in, nobody's found this thing, especially in a spot where I'm sure they want it to be found. So it is definitely strange.
Absolutely. Well, and okay, so even if the game being broken or whatnot, but they have on the parchment, it says like beware if you open it. So there should be this discussion of whether or not it's going to be used or not. And so you would think that if he learns that this is part of the discussion of whether it's going to be used or not, like that's something that should be brought into the conversation of the game. I would think it's written on the advantage.
Yeah, I mean, I think if somebody found it and turned it down, they'd probably show us. But if they're not looking because they don't think it's worth it to even look, then maybe they're not going to show that they're not looking. But again, who knows? I mean, there's so many different possibilities here. We need somebody voted out from Luvu so they can tell us what's going on.
Key.
Yeah. Which I personally, I mean, I feel like given that Danny and Deshaun tried to throw this tribal. This immunity, I have to imagine Luvu is going to go to tribal next time, right? Like they're going to go to one tribal before this swap merge, whatever. Again, I'm assuming it's happening at 12, might not. But I have to imagine that they're going to succeed at throwing the challenge next time, and that's sort of part of what I'm making some assumptions here. I'm making an assumption that A, Luvu's going to try to throw the challenge again, and that B, there's only one more tribal before a swap or merge. If those things don't happen, then who knows? But and it's certainly possible that somebody else goes to tribal. But that's sort of what it seems like should happen from here.
Yeah, I mean, if they're trying so hard to vote out somebody before a merge happens, I can see that them getting their wish this week or next week. So yeah, I'm with you. I can go along that train of thought. I don't think that they'll let it get to 11. They haven't showed any previews of the merge happening next episode, so I feel like it's going to be goodbye, Erica, next week,
Could be, but it could also fall
Xander.
on. I think it could also fall on Nasir. Unfortunately, just like they've built up Nasir so much as a target that maybe this Erica thing is a decoy in prep, right? So who knows? But any final thoughts, Chantele, as we wrap up here?
Final thoughts is I love talking to you about Survivor. This has been new. This is fun. Completely kind of different. Well, it's just different, but it's good. I love talking strategy. I love talking about players. I love the social dynamics of these games. It's never been that I've been able to talk to anybody about these things as much as we get to on Robin's podcast. So I'm loving it. I love this season. I love the Stockwatch. I think it's actually really fun. Even watching it and just seeing people's perspective of how the game's going, I think it works really well. And so if you develop it so that, we can start actually playing with some fake money, I think that you'll have a lot of people that are excited to participate. So I thought this was fun. I'll come back anytime. I love talking to you about reality TV and now Survivor as well.
All right, thank you so much. Well, that's what we have for you here today. You can, of course, find me over on Twitch, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong. I watch these episodes live on Twitch with you guys, so come and join me. It's a lot of fun to watch with other people. It's like you're watching with friends almost. If you aren't able to do that in person, so come hang out with that. And then, of course, you can find me on Twitter at ArmstrongTaran. I recently did some exit interviews for the Big Brother season, the postseason interviews. I did a deep dive with Tiffany at the Todrick Mansion in person. So check out that video. And there's more coming as well. So keep it coming with that Big Brother coverage. Yeah, that's what we got. Chantele, where can people find you?
You can find me pretty much everywhere online through my Instagram at ShanFranFran has all my links. But if you want to find me on YouTube, I have a channel called Reality Realness with 3 S's. Not talking about too much right now, but the challenge is amping up. We also have, the Bachelorette starting next week. And yeah, definitely thinking about doing All Stars as well. So yeah, lots of stuff coming up on that channel. So come hang out. We go live all the time and talk.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us here today. And I will see all of you next time.